Hey guys, it's Will. Hopefully you're having a great Thursday today. In this video, we're going to be going over Redwire stock and how we saw it surge recently up to this level and then recently pulled back big down to what is this, well, about a $9.50 price point. So we've seen it sell off here after the earnings report, and they have dipped about 30% from this $14 price point. Now, I have some positions long term in Redwire. We have some short term positions as well. And so I'm going to kind of go over those, kind of what's going on in the near term with Redwire. And they're also pretty, there's a lot developing in the company that positions them maybe as a transforming quiet giant as well. So yes, I got some calls that we'll see. Maybe they expire worthless. They are down there. We have also some developments as of recently with the company that they've seen that they were selected as one of the top companies to be in a $2.7 billion deal, but they just haven't seen those returns yet. Now, again, long-term positions, the calls are down right now. Here's what most people are not seeing. There's a lot of retail panic today for sure. You see a lot of sell-offs, and that's going to happen. They are transforming into a multi-domain space company. They acquired a company recently called Edge Autonomy. They've gotten accepted into the DoD blue list. So they're also doing some commercialization of biotech in space with Space MD. And I'm going to kind of walk you through what happened, why this dip happened, and why. And despite some of the pain, this could be what might be a strategic buying zone as well. One of the best zones we've seen all year. So that's something to consider. I see some comments here. Bam says standing by. He's got position there. Brandon. Adam says great to be in the chat. Hey Adam. Nalzir says that you are looking to buy the dip and that you're having trouble and that it's eating anything you put into it. I totally get it, man. Brandon says, I did my research and it looked good. Not an expert. We did see dilution. Yeah, it's true, Brandon. Marty says, buy the dip. Let's kind of jump into it, what that looks like. So, a really good example would be to look at like AMD, for example. AMD absolutely dipped huge yesterday, right? They dipped big from 182 basically up from there here, and then in their earnings as low as 157, they dipped about 13%, which is big for, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap. And what did we see today? Just really nice recovery. Now they're up 6.5%. AMDL is up 12 or 13%. And, this oftentimes is the name of the game with the earnings reports. That's why it's not such a good idea to usually have any short-term high leverage positions on companies right around earnings. Now, what we also see though is while they've dipped down to this level, there is this greater market cap build. And when we're looking at Redwire, there's a few things to consider. So leading up until these earnings, they were having some really good revenues, 60 million here, 70 million. You see increasing revenues year over year. So the income statement was looking pretty good. The revenue is up about 25% year over year. Then we looked at their balance sheet. Their balance sheet was a little more concerning with liabilities that were more than their assets back in 2024, but they cleaned it up. They paid down some of their liabilities and everything else. Now, and I see Marty Clark says, don't catch the falling knife though. So he says, buy the dip, but don't catch the falling knife. Yep, that's a good way to look at it. They have been expanding. So they have defense. They got the Department of Defense stuff. They got Edge Autonomy. So they're doing air multi-mission uncrewed aircrafts that they just recently acquired this company. One thing they mentioned in the earnings call is that they were having trouble integrating so far with their new acquisition, that they're still figuring some things out there, which might not be so hot. Now, they also work with a lot of companies to deploy these satellites. You have these very cool stations that they are getting out. You also have um, long range reconnaissance. They were just awarded that Golden Dome. They've been working with companies and also the government to get their technology into space. Now, when we were able to meet them for the first time at the space symposium, some of the things that they were focusing on was, drug discovery. They're focusing on building out more infrastructure in space for government. And then we see them also, doing some NASA deals for infrastructure on the moon and on Mars. Saw that kind of playing out. And then also, again, they secured this contract, or at least this agreement, that they are one of 14 contractors in a 2.6 billion, not 2.7, 2.6 billion dollar deal. Now, despite this, they didn't see any revenues coming from that yet. They just signed it back in April. And obviously, with their recent earnings, that's kind of what we see. So let's take a look at what came out with their earnings here. So a couple articles that just came out, after hours yesterday. They reported some losses of about 41 cents per share, and their sales missed, right? They came in at $61 million. They were hoping to get a lot more. And their stock ended up dropping really big as a result. Now, they did have the guidance cut too. They were looking for a much bigger growth in their quarter over quarter growth. And so basically what it was just a significant miss on some of their revenue. Their full year revenue guidance was cut to about $500 million. So their market cap's still small. It's about 1.5 billion for a space company. But again, $500 million target on their revenue for the year means that they're maybe going to be pulling in around $100 million or a little bit over that per quarter, which is still bullish. You see them ramping up the revenue year over year, right? So you can see the revenue really ramping up. They got 137 in that year, 160 million in this year. Then they got 243 million in 2023. And then what happened here in 2024, they see $304 million in revenue. And then here 2025, they're saying 500 million, which is still bullish in growth year over year, just not as bullish as what Wall Street really, I guess, wanted to see come out there. So you also got, while the revenue came in, and we see, a lot of the conversation, heating up around, okay, they missed some of their sales targets. What's going on there? They're down 30%. Is this the end? Are they going to sell off big? Most insider activity indicated there was about 5 sales they had recently after earnings, and the trading volume super high up there. But the median price targets, like most price targets, which we don't always consider, right, because they're just, from who knows who, so you got to take them with a grain of salt, right? But the general institutional price targets for the company are actually in the $20 to $25 range. So if we're considering that, we can look at some of the technicals. We see this market cap build here. I see Johnny says, hey, what's going on, Johnny? Nalzir says, just doing Redwire now, as it had a tank today. We did do a Big Bear AI video, Tommy, earlier today. Let me just drop the link for you. Let me just go grab it for you, okay? I got the link right here. And I'll drop it there in the chat for you. Here we are. Get the shareable link. And I'll drop it in the chat for you. If you missed that update on BBAI, there it is. Just dropped it in the chat there for you, Tommy. And then Black Sky earnings. Okay, yeah, so take a look. But basically, there's been this market cap build, and we've seen it go from $3 a share back here in 2024, surging, and then really started to take off from November at that $5 share up to $26 by February. Once they reached that February mark, $26, we saw them crash and sell with the greater market down to about $7 a share or 660. And then now we've seen them surge back up to 20, and they've recently pulled back to about $10 a share. So now that they're at this $10 share mark, they've had a big sell-off here, about 30% again. We're looking at this market cap build. Yes, is it not the prettiest? Is it, 500 million is not maybe the best time to, or the best, I should say, target. I get it. But also, like, when we consider the company's year-over-year growth, I mean, $500 million in guidance and revenue for the year of 2025 is much greater than that of where they were at in 2024. So you can just see that annual kind of revenue really ramping up here over the last few years. And so, it's, while the financials in the last quarter are a little bit down on the revenue, I do see that they have this, this growth that they're seeing, right? And we know they've been selected for some contracts. Ash Aragam says Shea Boulor dumped his whole position today. You should see his write-up. I don't know who Shea Boulor is. Not really sure who that is. But I appreciate the insight, and we'll have to see what the write-up is that he was able to come out with after selling, if that is a notable name to be considering. Josh says, I take this as dip is just temporary and we should buy. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we're looking at, right? So they sold off. They were down here to this lowering support level. This is a previous resistance level, right? So we're here, previous resistance, previous support, some consolidation support there to here. So we see that level there where it's kind of finding a support potentially here at around $9 a share. They recently started to bounce just a little bit, maybe on the last, minute or so, as we see them, starting to find that 943, and they're starting to bounce a little bit, right? But overall, holding below this EMA, so bearish momentum at the moment, holding below this EMA, seeing them really cross above the EMA and get back up into this 975 range would be really good indication, or really just even a little lower is fine. Really above 950 here is a key level for it to really kind of hold around. I'd like to see it hold around this level. Could it sell down more? It could, but again, that's how it looks right now. So when it comes to kind of the near term targets and what we're looking at here, they have the most volatile time right here at earnings, and it's not a surprise that they get volatility right around earnings. I am going to add personally to some longer term positions on the company. Shorter term positions, we're out of any trades. We got some calls that we're holding that we'll see. Again, they're bullish. They're up here in this $15 to $17 range that we were looking at. If they don't hold, they don't hold. That's part of it. One of the bigger dips that we've seen of the year in space tech, but definitely not something that we couldn't see them jump up 15, 20% in a day. So just kind of watching, how that looks. Now, when it comes to the movements, again, watching $9.50, kind of the recovery level that they will have another resistance as they're making a recovery. And I see Nazir, I see your comment there. I'll take a look, man. Is going to be up into this previous support and previous resistance level right here, about $12 a share. That's going to be where we're going to watch, try and see that level. They're trying to bounce, trying to make it back up. But again, $12 a share is going to be the next level that we'd want to see them bounce to. From here, current price point and where they're at, if the volatility were to maybe see a bounce, again, that's about a 25% recovery there on Redwire, potential up to $12 a share. But again, don't want to catch a falling knife. That's a good, figure of speech, but it's also, true if you feel the pain when the stocks go down. I get it. But we're kind of just looking at it as maybe more of a temporary correction, and most likely as they continue to build their stack of space tech, they are looking to continue to grow their company. So that's kind of how it looks right now. So we'll be continuing to watch them. When I met them in person, it seemed like things were really on a great track. They seem to have things together and some good partnerships. And so government contracts, sometimes do, take a while to push through, especially with change in administration. So seeing a little bit of a dip there on the revenue. It's nothing to worry about there too much. So that's the breakdown for Redwire. There's some other movements happening. You got Black Sky there. Black Sky just reported earnings. Came in a little bit low with fairly good guidance. They ended up dipping a tad and then recovering. They dipped to 14 and recovered back to $17 a share. And they're kind of trying to find that support there around that $18 price point. Black Sky, kind of similar deal. They're in the space tech industry. Most of all tech today inside of the space tech industry, we see sell off. With the example of maybe Leidos and Amentum there, you got Rocket Lab is having a red day. You got KTOS, you got Kratos, rocket companies, Lunar, definitely KULR is down. You got ASTS is down 6%. Most space companies here are down. Lockheed Martin down there, and so that is just also kind of a wider market. It's kind of a perfect storm there for Redwire for why they'd sell off. If the greater market was up and other space tech companies were doing good today, maybe it wouldn't be such a dip there. So a little bit maybe of an exaggeration there on Redwire. And so that's kind of where we're going to watch here for maybe more opportunities. So they just seriously sold down after earnings there. Good question there from Jay. Says, what do you think AMC earning coming in the Monday? Not super familiar with it. So I wouldn't have a good answer for you there. Nalzir says, see that all-time high on Redwire in the next 12 months? I mean, it depends on how their next earnings go. If they come in with some good earnings, and also, we're talking about a recovery right now where that's like a 25% swing if they recover back in a year and a 30% swing. It could happen, so it's just a matter of really monitoring it, seeing where it's at. It had some big push-ups to $26, came back to reality a little bit, and now it's just back on this support. Kind of got to see how it builds its market cap and maybe continues to find some momentum here for Redwire. Stuart, you got Yaniv here. Where's the support? Support's at $9.50 at the moment for Redwire. That's what we're going to be watching there. Nalzir says, just buying. Just started buying some KULR. Okay, good luck. Was there a specific catalyst that brought you into that conclusion? Curious. Appreciate you all. So thanks so much for tuning in. I do appreciate the comments. Johnny, thanks for tuning in. Tommy, thanks for tuning in. You got Puff99, appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. And Black Sky had a crazy recovery. Yep, yeah, we see it because it started the day down. That was a big V shape there. So you got a huge recovery there. And that's kind of, the similar, kind of what we're talking about with Redwire, right? We're saying, with that recent move on Black Sky, that's kind of what happens sometimes. They just reported earnings. They sold as low as $14.70 and recovered 20% in a day, in 4 hours, So it's like, those are the types of moves you got to watch with Redwire. They've already gone up 2% since we started the call. Started this video, so just keeping that in mind. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. And we just wrapped up our daily live trading today. We were trading Super Microcomputer after another dip they had on earnings. They were kind of playing a similar deal there. Sometimes after earnings can be the best time to catch moves, but definitely at market open. First 20 minutes of the day, normally when we trade. And why we're really paying attention now is you got tariffs that are hitting the markets, but you also have some big earnings that are coming out. So that kind of presents different opportunities. And if you ever want to watch our daily live trading sessions, we go live there right at market open Monday through Friday. You can actually get lifetime access to it. Second link in the description, and would love to see you there at the market open sessions as we go over fundamental analysis, technical analysis. You can kind of see how we do the trades, the entries, and the exits. And also, one bonus that we have right now is a free t-shirt. So I'll send that over to you. Thanks so much. Appreciate you all. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next